Start the music. Okay, so there's that, and what's it turn? That would help to turn up the volume. Hold on. Okay, and we are live. Hi there. Good evening. I'm Tracy Lawrence, founder of Grand Family Planning and author of the forthcoming book, Dementia Sucks, coming to you via Postal Press in May of 2018. So watch for that book. It's coming at you. And I welcome you to the 5th installment of The Courage to Live With. And tonight I'm really excited because you guys are in for a real treat. This is an amazing story. I'm so thrilled to have my friend and colleague Vikki Kitz here tonight. Hi, Vikki.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. And just so you know, Vikki is you don't mind my sharing your age. She's 40. She looks fabulous. And that photo that you saw coming in to the webinar, if you've been watching the marketing, that is Vikki with her 5-year-old daughter.
Yes.
And her name is
Emmeline.
Emmeline. And she's absolutely precious. And now to frame the conversation. Many of you know that this is October and it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And one of the things that we feel real strongly about is telling stories that will compel people to be more proactive in their lives. Because we very often are complacent. You know, we go about our lives, you know, we look at these things, you know, and we got our noses in our smartphones, and we're not paying attention to things that are extremely important. And number one, most important thing in the whole wide world, folks, in case nobody ever told you, it's your health. Okay? Good health is a limited time offer, and if you have it, then you need to cherish it and you need to guard it, because good health is what gets us through.
Yes.
So, you know, when I met Vikki and she told me her story, I was absolutely floored. So I invited her to come here and share her story tonight, because I think it's a really amazing and compelling story. So I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna start the proceedings by asking Vikki about her illness, because Vikki is now 2 years in remission.
Yes.
or she likes to say cured,
Yes,
and I'm cool with that. You know, cure is good. But you know, 2 years, it's a really big deal.
2 years, cancer-free, no evidence of disease as well.
It's fantastic, and we, you know, we have dinner here at the show beforehand so that we can, like, you know, get to talk about what we're going to talk about.
Yes.
And I got a preview, and I'm telling you guys, you know, this is amazing stuff. And Penny, be quiet. Thank you very much, dear. She wants to play with her toys now, of course, because we're busy. Okay, so Vikki was she was into running.
Yes.
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 So what please share the story of how how you discovered your illness and what, you know, what it was.
Sure. So it was February 2015. Mm-hmm. I was 2 years into what I call my running career. After my daughter was born, I got into running. I loved it. It made me feel good. It's good for you. I was losing weight. It was a whole part of my thing. So in February, probably a few months prior, I'd been losing a lot of weight. So I was slimming down a lot. And one thing I was noticing more than anything else, aside from feeling better and healthier, was that one of my breasts was like losing weight. It was getting smaller while the other one was not. And I think in February was when it got to be the most noticeable to me, where it was like I had to go and buy 2 different size bras and put them together so that this way it would fit properly. I was literally spilling out on one side and not on the other side, which it started to bother me. It started to be noticeable and bother me. And it was February 15th. I will never, ever forget that date. My cousins came over and they wanted me to help them with their taxes because I was going to school for accounting, and they always came to me. My family comes to me for tax advice. So I was like making a joke about it because it was consuming me a little bit. And I'm like, oh, don't mind how one of my boobs is just so much bigger than the other. And she was like, well, it's kind of obvious. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know what's going on. And she was like, oh, well, maybe, you know, did you ever think about breast cancer? And I was like, no, of course I haven't. I was only 37 years old. I was in good health. I was probably in the best shape, the best health of my life. And breast cancer doesn't run in my family. Cancer doesn't really run in my family. So that was the last thing that was on my mind. And, you know, being under 40, I hadn't had a mammogram yet. And I just kind of was like, that's not it. But for some reason, she like planted a seed in the back of my head, my cousin, and it kind of just grew with me as the night went by. And after they left, I ran in the computer room and I jumped on my computer and I'm looking up on Google, like anything to do with like, I'm like, okay, breast cancer and one breast larger than the other, you know, any random thing I could find. And sure enough, I mean, as soon as you type in breast cancer, everything comes up.
Sure. And
I'm looking through all these different breast cancer things, and I come across this one, and it was a rare breast cancer called inflammatory breast cancer. I had never heard of it before. And I'm like reading it, and I'm like, a larger breast, and there was a couple other symptoms like skin thickening, redness, swelling. It can get like large and red and, you know, poda orange, however you pronounce it, which is like orange peel type skin. And but it said that like only 1 to 3% of breast cancers were inflammatory breast cancer. So I'm like, there's just no way that, you know, there's no way. Breast cancer doesn't run in my family. I'm too young for this. I just couldn't, but I just had this sick feeling that there was something. So I took this knowledge that I found on Google and I went into my bathroom and I just kind of, I got to know myself really well down. And, you know, I was inspecting myself, and I found this little area of like very faint, like pinkish, like almost like a rash kind of. And I was like, oh my God. I was like so afraid to continue on, but I was like, all right, let me call my doctor tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
So I did, and I went to work, and it was tough to try to get through the day at work because that was all I was thinking about.
Sure.
Customers were coming up to me asking me for help with their bathroom, and I'm just like, okay, what is wrong with me? So I called him, and he made an appointment with me that afternoon. It was great. I went in there. He examined me. He found nothing. I said, well, what about this like little pink area right here? He's like, it's probably just an irritation. He's like, it's very common for women to have 2 different sized breasts, especially since I breastfed my daughter, another supposed to reduce breast cancer. And she nursed more on my right side than she did on my left. She just did. And he said that had a lot to do with it as well. And I had dense breasts, and I was getting older. He said it was normal. He didn't see anything that was of any concern to him. He did a full exam. He found nothing. So he basically was like, put some bacitracin on the little redness. If it doesn't get better in a week, come back and see me and stay off of Google. And I'm like, all right. And I loved my OBGYN. He was wonderful. He dealt with me through my whole entire pregnancy, and I've been seeing him for a long time. So I'm like, all right, I left. I went home, but I wasn't convinced. His exam did not convince me that there wasn't something going on. I just had this sick feeling, like in the back of my head, this fear that I knew what this was. And I wanted him to tell me I was wrong, which he did, but I still didn't believe him.
Right.
So I went home and I went back on Google. I just couldn't help myself. I just went back on Google, and I kept reading about how what he told me was a common misdiagnosis. Like, women will go and they'll be diagnosed with mastitis or an infection, and they'll go back and they'll keep changing antibiotics, and then before you know it, they're stage 4, and it's metastasized to other areas. And I was so scared. I'm like, I don't want this to happen to me. I'm not going to be misdiagnosed. I refuse to let this happen to me. I don't want to die. So, I had a 3-year-old daughter. I loved my life. I mean, who doesn't, So I called him up the next morning, and I left him a message, and I was like, look, you need to either prove me wrong or, I don't know, discredit this completely. I was like, I need to get this taken care of because I'm not going to die. And on my lunch break, he just happened to call me back, and he had already started the process of getting me in to see other doctors. He's like, here's the name of the breast surgeon you're going to call. I already spoke to her, and you're going to call and schedule the appointments for your ultrasound and your mammogram. I already put in the scripts for them. And I was like, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. He's like, Victoria, I hope you're wrong. He's like, but I'll be praying for you. And I was like, well, thank you.
He sounds like a really decent guy.
Yeah, he was, and I think a lot of the problem is, as I get a little further into the story, is a lot, because inflammatory breast cancer is very rare, and a lot of people have never heard of it, even doctors, which is scary. It's scary for women because you think it's an older person's, breast cancer, but it's a lot of young women get, like, even before 30 and early 30s get diagnosed with it.
Wow.
But, yeah. So I called, back to the doctor's thing. I called and I scheduled my mammogram and my ultrasound. And it was funny because when I was getting my mammogram, they were like squishing me all over because they kind of had an idea of why I was there.
Yeah.
And they're like, Miss Kitz, we're not finding anything. And I'm like, it's this weird spot right here where the skin is different. And she's she's like, all right, we're going to just go in for the ultrasound then, because we're not finding anything. So it was the ultrasound that picked it up. Actually, after the ultrasound was done, the young lady that did the imaging came in and she's like, okay, I'm just going to have you wait down in the waiting room and we'll call you in so you can speak to the radiologist. And when I went in there, I was so scared about what he was going to tell me. And he was like explaining to me how they found the thickening of the skin, which is just textbook inflammatory breast cancer.
Wow.
And a lesion, a small lesion in the back of my breast. And I was just like horrified. I think like my heart like fell right down into the pit of my stomach. I was like, oh my God. And I was like trying not to sit there and like bawl my eyes out in front of him. And he's like, all of this really, all these symptoms are pointing in the direction of inflammatory carcinoma of the breast. And I'm like, oh my God. And he's just like, you know, it could be coincidental, but I don't really think it is. So you should make a doctor's appointment and speak with your doctor right away. And luckily, I already had one set up for like 2 days from then. The next day they called me though, and they bumped it up. They saw me the very next day, and you know, they obviously gave me the bad news I already knew.
Sure.
I think I knew it all along, and within 2 weeks, I was officially diagnosed with inflammatory breast cancer. And it's in fact so aggressive that in that 2 weeks time that I had just that small mass in the back of my breast had grown to where it can actually be felt at that point and moved into the lymph nodes in my right arm, underarm. Yeah.
That's amazing.
It's crazy.
Thank goodness.
Yes.
You know, you followed your gut.
Yes.
And you know, this is the thing. You know, we respect our doctors, and we believe if a doctor tells us, you know, you're being silly, don't worry. You know, it's you know, we tend to take that as like, okay, phew, I'm done, and you walk away. But you know, it's thank God. Yes. You know, you kept at it. And, you know, and that's a really important lesson, folks. You know, anytime you're in that situation where your gut is telling you it's something, it's hard, but you know, getting another opinion is extremely important.
Absolutely.
You know, and for those of us who are maybe not quite as strong as Vikki was, you know, to have an advocate like your cousin, you know, someone who knows you and cares about you and can help you to, you know, stand up for yourself and take it to the next level, because, you know, a lot of things get misdiagnosed. I've seen it a lot in my family. And it's, you know, it's tough. You know, you don't want to disrespect a doctor's opinion, but a lot of times they're wrong.
Yes. Yes. And they don't mean to be wrong.
No, but it's,
you know,
it's their experience. It's their experience. My mom had a condition that was extremely rare, and it wasn't diagnosed until she was very close to the end of her life. But it had been keeping her alive for a long time. It was something called polycythemia vera, which is a bone disorder. It's a type of cancer.
Oh, wow.
And she had a very high blood count. Usually people as old and frail as my mother would have anemia. But because her bone marrow was making so many more red blood cells, she didn't have anemia. And in fact, her bones were very dense. And she had fallen a number of times, and she didn't break her bones because they were so dense. Wow. Yeah, and generally that's a condition that presents in men, and it's like 2 out of 100,000. So they weren't looking for it in her. Wow. Yeah. So, you know, you don't know. And sometimes you know, Google can be your friend.
It can be bad, but it can be your friend.
Yes. It's easy to get obsessive about it, but you know what? It's a great source of information. And if you use it properly, you know, help to build a case, that's, you know, that it's extremely important to have that data available. So, now, once you were diagnosed, did they give you a prognosis? I mean, you said was stage 3, correct?
Stage 3 inflammatory breast cancer is generally diagnosed at either stage 3 or stage 4, which is, it's unfortunate. But I was stage 3, so it was just in the one area.
So now you did have a friend who was helping to caregive you while you were going through this, correct?
Yes, I had both. My fiance was helping me, and he worked, so it was tough. So I had one of my best friends, Janine. She was such a hero, such a saint. She came and sat with me through my chemo treatments, which were long. She'd be at my house, she'd pick me up, we'd go. We literally had to bring breakfast and lunch because we were there for the first day we were there for 9 hours for infusion. And she sat there with me the whole time. God bless her. And she would come over the next day after she dropped me off the day before. She'd come over the next day. I had to go get a shot. And she'd sit with me for the first few days, when she wasn't work. She tried to take off the same days as I took off from work to just sit with me, because sometimes I would just lay on the couch, and I didn't want to send my daughter to daycare, even though everybody was like, we'll watch her. But I was in this mindset where I just wanted to spend all this time with her because I didn't know what was going to happen, So yeah, my friend Janine was really good. She took care of me. I had a lot of friends that came and helped out too, but I think she was the main person that was there for me.
The guardian angel in charge.
Yes, she definitely was.
That's awesome.
Yes.
So as far as household stuff, did you have help with that as well? I mean, did you have?
It was my friend Janine. She would come over. She would clean. She would cook. Michael would take care of a lot of the cleaning too around the house. I did what I could.
The chemo
it
just beats the crap out of you.
It does. I was expecting to be yeah, I'll just be down for 2 days after. No big deal. I was really wrong.
Yeah.
So, but we did have we already had somebody that came and cleaned the house for us. So she just came once a week, and then in the interim, my friend Janine would totally help.
That's awesome.
Yeah, she was great.
So, was there anything that surprised you about your illness?
Getting it.
Yeah, no doubt.
Being diagnosed with it. I learned a lot about it. I guess the lack of knowledge and information about it. I met a group of women on the internet, on Facebook. I found this group, this support group, and this woman who lives in Texas, whose name is Terry Lynn Arnold. And she founded what's called the IBC Network, and she has a website and everything. It's got a lot of information on inflammatory breast cancer. And I think that's where I went when I had to learn things. And I think what surprised me the most about this particular type of cancer is how it's misdiagnosed, because so many people just don't know about it, and the lack of knowledge and lack of information and education out there about it. So that surprised me about this illness. So now it's always been my goal to try to help people. Yeah.
And that's a wonderful goal.
Yeah.
Now, you had health insurance.
Yes.
Through your job.
I did. I had very good health insurance.
Okay. And you worked for Lowe's?
I worked for Lowe's, yes.
And now Vikki had a horrifying experience while she was going through her chemo. Why don't you talk a little bit about that? Because that to me was the scariest thing.
It was crazy. So it was my 3rd treatment, I believe, I was coming up on. And I got a call from my oncologist nurse, and she was like, Vikki, Caremark, who was the company that dealt with my chemo meds, called us, and they're not releasing your chemo meds. You have to call them. So I'm like, all right. I know a lot of times they wanted me to give them an authorization.
Mm-hmm.
So I called them and I was like on the phone with them and I'm like, yeah, I was like, I got a call from my oncologist nurse and I just wanted to let you know, I think I needed to give an authorization to have my chemo meds released. And it was like Monday and I was supposed to have my treatment on Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
So she's like, I'm sorry, Miss Kitz, your account is in arrears. You have a large bill with us that we can't release these chemo meds. And I was like, I was beside myself. I'm like, you can't release my chemo drugs? I was like, do you understand that these are like life-saving drugs that are keeping me alive and may be the difference between me living or dying, and you're going to tell me you're not going to release these? And she's like, I'm sorry, Mrs. Kitz, you know, it's not me, it's our policy. She's like, you need to make a payment. And I was like, all right, well, how much of a payment do I have to make? Like, what do I even owe? I had no idea. I mean, I had bills like crazy because obviously I got diagnosed at the beginning of the year. So it was restarting my
your deductible.
That's it, the deductible.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just like, when she told me I had already was in debt, I think it was around $1,200. I was like, oh my God. I was barely working. I was out of sick time. I was out of vacation time. I was out of all kinds of time. And I was running out of money because obviously I wasn't working. And even though I had really good insurance, cancer is expensive. And not just that, but my bills were the last thing on my mind at that point. It was like I had just stacks of things I didn't even open yet because I was not even concerned with paying a bill. I was concerned with the fact that I needed to get better. And most of the time I didn't feel good anyway, you know, and it was easy to put on a smiley face and be like, yeah, I'm great. When I really was just like, I just wanted to go curl up under the blanket and just not be bothered.
Sure.
So I managed a payment plan with them, which was difficult. I eventually had to take some money out of my 401k at that point because I was like, I need to pay some of these bills. I need to get ahead of them before I just get so buried in them because I heard like horror stories and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm too young for this.
Yes. and just so you know, when you take money out of a retirement account before you are 59 and a half years old, you have to pay penalties.
Yes.
And, you know, and of course, when you take money out of a 401k, it's also taxed at the regular rate of taxation. So Vikki was having to pay taxes on the money she was taking out, as well as, you know, having to pay 10% penalties on all the money that she was taking out. So that it's a place that you don't want to have to be taking money out of because it's the money that you earmarked for the future.
Yes.
So so now you work with an insurance broker.
Yes.
And this was a life-changing scenario for Vikki.
Yes.
Because she had done something really smart. She had a life insurance policy, which many of us have, or many more of us don't. But sadly, but
she'll have it.
Yeah, but what was really cool is that Vikki had a particular kind of insurance policy. So tell us how that was revealed.
So it turned out my life insurance that I so intelligently and purchased just about 2 years prior had what was called a critical illness rider on it. And I'll never forget, it was Mother's Day. This I will never forget. Mother's Day, 2015. It was a beautiful day out. I went out to the fair with my daughter and my fiance. And it was the Sunday before my treatment. So it was when I was feeling my best. So I came home and I'm laying on my hammock and my phone's ringing and it's my agent or broker, whatever, Aaron. And I'm like, oh, I'm just going to send it to voicemail and I'll call back.
Mhm.
So he left me a voicemail, and I picked up my phone when I woke up, and I listened to the message, and he's like, Vikki, what is going on? I look on your Facebook page and I see all these pink ribbons and stuff. Give me a call back. I want to make sure everything's okay, and, maybe there's something we can help you with. And so I called him back, and I was like, yeah, it's breast cancer, and, it sucks. And he's like, oh, I don't know if you remember when we signed up your policy, you have this critical illness rider on it. And I was like, no, I didn't remember, because like everybody, I'm like, that'll never happen to me. I'm never going to need to benefit from this. Okay. In one ear, right out the other.
Right. And also when you're getting insurance, you're thinking, anything happens to me, if I die, my daughter's going to be okay.
Yes.
That's pretty much what you're thinking, right?
Yeah.
So this was a really big,
huge for me.
Yeah. That's a really big deal.
It was. And when he explained to me how we might be, or not might be, but how we could file a claim against my policy and have my death benefit accelerated to me, he's like, you can use that money for whatever you want. It's like, you don't have to pay your bills if you don't want to. Go on vacation, enjoy life. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I can pay that was like top priority for me. I'm like, I want to get rid of these bills. I don't want them anymore. They were so mountainous even after I took that money out of my 401k. But
sure.
So we filed that claim, and it took a little while because I was in that first 2 years, but it couldn't have come any sooner. Like when I got that payout of my life insurance, man, I paid off all my doctor bills. I called up my job, and I was like, I'm taking the rest of the year off.
Oh.
And it was a relief, because it was me being able to focus on me and me getting better and my health. And instead of like, let me drag myself to work today. And then it was awful. People were like, are you okay? You don't look good. And I didn't.
You weren't
good. So it was a relief. It was a relief for me to not have to worry about how I was going to pay my bills, how I was going to pay my daughter's daycare, how I was going to put food on the table, how I was going to take care of the roof over our head, and with the winter coming, how we're going to put oil in the tank, if I wasn't working to help pay all this. And aside from that, the fact that I blew through all my savings and I blew through everything that I had set aside, paying to get better. And so it was the biggest blessing and relief of my life. And I was so thankful and grateful that I had planned ahead, because I can honestly say I don't know where I would be right now if I didn't have that.
Sure.
If I had to continue to work, would I have been able to get better? Would I have lost my job because I just couldn't work? And they were great to me. I could never, ever say anything bad about my Lowe's family, because they were incredible. They really were. Everyone from the store manager, the district manager, all the way down to like part-time cashiers and people that brought in the carts, they were like my family. They were great. So,
they raised money for you?
They did. Yeah. They surprised me, and I know Janine headed it. Was a huge party that they threw, a surprise fundraiser where they all contributed like little things that they made, and they had this raffle, and they made all this money, and they made it all for me, and they threw this big party for me, and it was like the most memorable night of my life. I felt like a movie star. I walked in there, they're all clapping and cheering, and there's like big banners with my name and picture on it, and they had everybody signed it. It was phenomenal.
That's so beautiful.
It was just like, I couldn't put words to, how great it was. It was just
wonderful.
It was absolutely
a wonderful, loving gesture. I'm so happy for you.
Yes, they were so great.
I'm sorry I had to go through that to get it, but
yeah.
But when that's when my husband is a survivor also, and we were working together at a type shop in New York. I'm not going to even try to explain to you what that is, but we were craftsmen at a print related services company, and when Bob was going through his cancer treatment, it was such a, I don't know, it's just Penny gets her trachea collapses. It's a Yorkie thing. She's okay though. Right? There you go.
You got this, girl.
Isn't that's beautiful, right? She's okay though. Don't worry. So one of the gifts that Bob received with his illness was finding out how much the people around him loved him. He got so much support. And one of his coworkers, he had his hair fell out from the chemo, and one of his friends offered to shave his head in solidarity.
Oh.
And, there were just things like that were just really uplifting, and that just you just realize how much it means to people. And it was really great for him at that point in time in his life. So and that's one of the gifts. When you become ill, it seems like it's all doom and gloom. And I'm not saying, go out and get cancer because it'll be good for you. But what I am saying is that sometimes when you're sick, the universe brings gifts to you.
Yes.
That are very nourishing and healing, and it's wonderful that you that you were able to be embraced by your friends at that time. Yeah. So that's wonderful. So is there anything that had you known that you were going to get sick like this, is there anything that you would have done differently?
I would have wanted to be able to change the world in the diagnosis of inflammatory breast cancer. I would hope, if I could go back in time, knowing what I know now, I know that there were symptoms that I was having for 2 months prior to my diagnosis that I never linked to anything. And knowing that now, I would have loved to have been the first person to be diagnosed before stage 3 and maybe change everything for women everywhere that get diagnosed with this disease.
Wow.
And maybe have helped doctors and scientists and researchers figure out a way to diagnose it before it's stage 3. Because could you mind sharing what those symptoms were? I had itchiness and weird stabbing pains. I have them in my armpit, and literally in that under part of my breast where the skin changes were. And it was just a weird itch that I just couldn't get it to go away, but then it would stop. And it never dawned on me that it was anything more than just an itch until I started reading that those were symptoms, early symptoms.
Wow.
And gosh, I wish I knew then, because,
Okay, make a note. If you get an itch that you can't scratch in your breast,
just an itch,
get it checked out.
Weird stabbing pains.
Okay. Anything else
that would have done, or
no? Any other symptoms?
Not that I can recall. Those were the two that stuck out to me the most.
Okay. Okay. Well, you know what? Google, take note.
Yes.
Okay. That should really be included in the literature. Okay. And but you feel like you as over and above that realization. Anything else that you think you would have done differently if you'd known?
I would have bought more permanent life insurance.
Okay.
Because now I found out that I will not be eligible for another 8 years, and it'll probably be more expensive.
Sure.
And thankfully, I do still have more insurance, but I would have loved to have more, because I don't know. Ever since when my father passed away, and it's always been important to me.
Sure.
For more reasons than one.
Right. Of course. Is that policy that you accelerated? Is there anything left, or is it?
No, I fully accelerated
it.
Yeah. So that is gone.
But thank God for it.
Yes. I don't know what I would have done if I hadn't planned. And I didn't plan on getting breast cancer.
Of course not. Of
But
course not.
I'm just so glad it just happened to be there for me when
Yeah.
it happened.
Yeah. Well, you know, that's, and you know, it's, what a gift.
Yes.
You know, what a gift to yourself and your daughter and your
Mhm.
fiance. That, you know, you're here.
Yes.
And you're healthy now.
Yeah.
And that's, there's, you can't put a price on that.
Yes. And actually, one of my biggest fears that used to keep me awake at night, like crying secretly on the side of my pillow, was that because my daughter was only just turned 3, I was like, God, am I going to watch her get on the bus for kindergarten? And yay, she did this year.
Yeah.
And I did. I got to put her on the bus, and it was like one of those moments where I was like thinking about it for the weeks before. I'm like, am I going to cry my eyes out and not be able to deal with this? But she got up on that bus, and I was so happy I got to see it. Mm. She was just like, peace, Mom. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to go inside and be a grown-up for a minute. But I was happy to be able to see that. And I'm at the point right now where I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to watch her graduate. I'm going to watch her get married. I'm going to watch her have babies. And I'm going to be around for that.
That's awesome.
And I know a big part of it has to do with the fact that, you know, I had that life insurance that was able to make a world of difference in my life and help me be able to sit back and relax for a minute and enjoy life.
And just so, you know, we're not trying to sell you anything, folks, but, you know, this is a great thing to understand, is that by planning and by leveraging the right kinds of protection strategies, mm-hmm. you can protect your family and you can protect yourself.
Right.
Which is so amazing. Mm-hmm. And you know, Vikki and I, you know, both know about this particular solution that was so life-saving for you. And you know, and if you ever have questions about these kinds of tools, you know, we're happy to share this information.
Yes.
You know, because, you know, we're not, and you know, again, we're not selling anything. We just want to educate people that these tools exist, and if you ask the right questions, that you can learn about them and implement them in your own life, mm-hmm. and have a strategy so that if, God forbid, you get sick, you have something there that protects you as well as your family. Yes. And that's a huge weight to be lifted from, mm-hmm. your shoulders, to know that you've taken care of that particular need in your life. So, and really, you know, congratulations to you,
Thank you.
for you know, for having taken that step, and for, you know, for having navigated your way, because, you know, as someone who's helped a number of people, I've been very blessed. I myself have not been sick. And I'm very, very blessed. Knocking on wood. But, you know, I know how expensive it is, and I know how challenging it is. You know, having, you know, one of my first dates with my husband was being his caregiver, for God's sake. You know, a year after we got together, he got sick. So, you know, I got a front row seat to that. And then, mm-hmm. they were, you know, my parents, and I know how challenging and how expensive and how draining. And, yes. you know, and the other thing you guys need to know is that just having insurance isn't enough. It's knowing how to make a claim.
Yeah.
You know, and this is it's a big challenge, is a lot of people don't realize, you know, you can have really great insurance, but if you don't know how to exercise the claim and how to file the paperwork properly and how to be tenacious and how to, you know, because here's a little secret about most insurance companies. They deny first and ask questions later. So, yeah. So, you know, can you believe this woman is like, she's going for chemotherapy and she's being told that her drugs are not being released because she owes money? You know, how is that even possible?
Scary.
Yeah. Scary. You know, and you know, the lesson is, folks, we live at a time where medicine is business. And unfortunately, we as human beings with medical needs, we're not seen as people, we're seen as numbers. We're seen as a source of income for if for the insurance companies and for the drug companies and the medical establishments. And, you know, listen, I know a lot of great doctors. I know a lot of great people in the medical profession. I'm not saying anything disparaging about them, but our system is broken. We have a very seriously impaired system right now. And it's based on the idea that, you know, that it's all about money. And unless we're prepared to face it with the right tools and advocates, folks, everybody who's over the age of 18 needs to have an advocate. Because you know, when you're sick, you don't have the energy, you don't have the, you don't have the strength to do everything necessary to take care of yourself. Mm-hmm. So you need to have somebody in your corner who can be your point person, who can get on the phone for you and fight the fight for you and get you to the doctor's appointments and get you the treatment and get you what you need so that you can survive to live another day. Yes. So you know, that's that's a message that I try to bring to everyone we meet, because so many of us, we don't think of that. And it's extremely important. You need to have somebody. Look, I'm an independent person, and you know, the idea that I would need to have somebody speak for me is like, you know, it bugs me, because I've always been the big mouth who stands up for other people. But you know, I also know logically that there's going to be a time in my life where I may not be able to speak for myself. Mm-hmm. So I have an advocate. I have advocates, you know, appointed. You know, and it's extremely important. So, you know, I can't hammer that one home strongly enough. Okay, so all right, so want to make sure that we get the high notes here. So as far as you used to work for Lowe's.
Yes.
And that's now in the past?
Yes, I retired, I guess. I'm not quite retired from Lowe's. I resigned. There we go. That's a better word. I resigned from Lowe's. I went back for a short amount of time, and I just couldn't do it, and my heart was somewhere else. I honestly, this whole experience was very life-changing for me, obviously, and the insurance part of it, and, you know, my advisor being a trusted friend, a great friend, who I actually met at Lowe's, Aaron.
Really?
Yes. I decided after speaking with him that I wanted to do what he did, and I wanted to help people be ready like I was ready. And I didn't know that I was going to need to use what I planned, but I'm so glad that I planned. And now it's so important to me, not just to help educate about, you know, cancer and inflammatory breast cancer especially, but to help people be prepared for a future where, you know, there's so much uncertainty now with disease and illness, because I think, what is it, like 1 in 4 people, they say, will develop some kind of cancer in their life. And it's, I don't know, just hit home. And so now I do that because it brings me like satisfaction. It's gratifying if I can help somebody, you know, to be prepared in the event that they ever have to live through something like I did.
Sure.
So that's what I do now.
Right. And I so admire that, you know, because it's not easy for some people, you know, once you've been through something like that, you know, it's like they want to put it in the past. It's in the rearview mirror. Let's look forward. But, you know, someone like yourself who has such a powerful story and a passion for helping others, to be able to help people to see that, you know, tell your story. Hopefully some of you watching will see yourselves in Vikki's story, a young mother of a beautiful young daughter who, you know, who wants to be around, you know, for to watch her grow up.
Yes.
You know, and it's so beautiful that, you know, you're going to be able to do that.
Yes.
And to be able to take that experience and turn it into a new career where she's telling her story and helping other people to understand that, you know, this doesn't just happen to other people. It happens to a lot of people. And that, you know, even if it doesn't happen to you, I hope it never happens to anybody watching. Okay. However, the likelihood that it won't happen to anybody is like really super remote. So you want to be prepared for it, you know? So, you know, I can't encourage you more strongly to see someone like Vikki, to talk about your situation, and, you know, see a professional, ask about what's out there. And there are strategies that you can use to protect yourself and your family, so that if something happens, you know, you'll be able to get the help that you need, restore your health, and protect your loved ones, so that, you know, you'll be able to go on and live a happy, healthy life for as long as you're around. So you know, that's it's a really super important message. So is there one thing that you would want people to know about your illness, besides what we've talked about already?
Oh, geez, that's a good question. I just to be aware of it, you know, to know the symptoms, you're your own best advocate. That's what I've learned. And, you know, if something feels off, or something's just not right, don't be embarrassed of it. I mean, I think I read a story about a girl that was, she was young and she was embarrassed that something was wrong with one of her breasts, and she never brought it to anybody's attention, and ended up dying of breast cancer. I don't know if it's a true story. I'm not gonna lie, but
yeah.
I could see it being like happening, but I mean, just to be aware of yourself, and you know, don't take anything for granted.
Great point. And I will share. One time I found a blotch on one of my breasts, and it was there for a couple of days. And I called my doctor, and I went in to see him, and he's like, "Yeah, it could be something. So we'll go for a mammogram." Well, by the time I went for the mammogram, it had disappeared. And they're like, "Oh yeah, right." And they said, "It was probably a spider bite." I'm like, "Okay." And when I went back to see the doctor, he's like, "So what happened with the mammogram?" I said, "They didn't find anything." It kind of, and he's like, "There was something there." Okay, well, there was nothing there. It was apparently some kind of bug bite. But you know what? Good. Hey, better safe than sorry. You know, I'd rather be embarrassed and find out that I'm healthy than you know, be upset because I didn't take action and you know, learn that it was really something. So are there any final thoughts that you would like to share?
Well, in regards to my breast cancer, I was just excited to get on here and, you know, maybe spread a little bit more knowledge and information about the particular type of cancer that I had, because it's, like I said, not common. And also, like you were just saying, like a mammogram, and they said there was nothing there. So funny that you said that, because did I tell you? I think I mentioned that they found nothing on my mammogram. Right. So, like I said, just knowing your body and all that is so important.
Right. So take it to the next step and get the ultrasound, and then that's where it was.
I mean, it's tough, but it's
And I mean, we don't like that. You know, human nature is we don't like to dig for bad news.
No, that's for sure.
You know, but it's better. You know, it's better to do that. Confront it. You know, face it head on, so that you know, and the proof is you're here. And you're healthy, and thank God.
Yes.
So Vikki, I'm so glad you were able to come here tonight. And oh, my pleasure. And I hope that viewers will listen and take notes. And if you notice anything, you know, that with your body that's not right, listen to your body. It's extremely important.
Yes.
You know, don't disregard it. Don't think, oh, it's just, you know, if you see something and you know that it's different, have a conversation. Take it to the doctor. You know, yeah, Google is good, okay, but you know, WebMD is no substitute for seeing a doctor. And then if you see the doctor and the doctor doesn't seem to think that there's anything wrong, and you still think there's something wrong, keep pushing. You know, your life is worth saving.
Absolutely.
You know, don't second opinions are there for a reason.
Right.
And you know, it's vitally important. It's urgently important that we stand up for ourselves, because you know, especially these days, you know, a doctor's offices are they're tasked with having to do so many administrative things, and they're not making as much money as they once did, because the insurance companies have put the squeeze on them. You know, it's a very tough situation. So, and my advice to people is keep looking for the right doctor. You know, it's so important to find the right primary care doctor, someone who listens to you and respects you, because having somebody like that in your corner will help to open the doors to all the other professionals you would need to be able to work with in order to address any condition that you might have, that, you know, where you absolutely need to see a doctor. So you know, I urge you. It's a big pain, okay, but you know, if your insurance company has a physician finder, take advantage. You know, print out a list. You know, make a point of going to see a few different doctors, because it may take a while to find the right doctor, but you know, it's really worth it. And you know, your health. Remember, health is number one. If you're not healthy, you can't do anything else, and you don't want to find out the hard way. So, you know, so really, it's the most loving thing you can do for yourself and your family, is to take really extra good care of yourself. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with demanding that you receive the care that you want and deserve. So.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, well, Vikki, thanks a million. And you know, well, I hope we'll be hearing from viewers as they get around to watching the replay.
Yes,
and you know, if you want to contact me or contact Vikki, you can go to the Grand Family Planning website. That's grandfamilyplanning.com, and click on the contact button, and you can contact me, and I can put you in touch with Vikki. And you know, or my email address is grandfamilyplanning@gmail.com. And feel free to ask questions. You know, if you guys have any remaining questions that you might want to ask, you know, we'll be happy to answer your questions offline. This will be circulating for a while. So thanks so much for joining us. This is Vikki Kitz, and I'm Tracy Lawrence, founder of Grand Family Planning. Thanks so much for joining us, and enjoy your evening, and to your health. Take care.